News of Louisiana seeing a construction boom over the next 5 to 6 years. It could seem a little out of step with interest rates going up and also the fact that we could be moving into recession. However, not the case. Dr. Loren Scott, Economist Dr, is here with us to explain what's happening, what's driving this.
Well, the key thing that's driving it is something that started happening about the early part of the mid-2010, 2012. And that is that there was a big gap that started to exist between the price of natural gas here and the price of natural gas in Europe. Europe has decided to outlaw fracking, try to get away from fossil fuels. Well, as a result, there's a shortage of the fuel over there, so their price has really gone up. And so what happens is chemical companies who make things out of natural gas have started looking at where are the cheapest molecules. Well, it's in the United States. Mm-hmm. So if you look at the area from Baton Rouge to the mouth of the Mississippi River, if you look at the Calcasieu Ship Channel over in Lake Charles down to the Gulf of Mexico, that's where they're coming because there's lots of pipelines bringing natural gas. There's deep water access to the Gulf of Mexico, then to the world market for their products. Right. So they're coming here like crazy. We're talking about billions and billions of dollars in projects.
And there have been billions of dollars of projects already spent, especially in the Lake Charles area, but different places too. And then some projects that were proposed that have not
pulled the trigger
on board yet.
Yeah, they what we call an FID, a final investment decision. So we have, if you look, for example, in our Louisiana economic forecast, the latest one. But if you go there, you'll see these lists of projects. So there's a list of projects that are underway. And we're talking about billions of dollars, like here in the Baton Rouge area where we're sitting today. Probably in the neighborhood of $12 billion in projects underway. Down in New Orleans, it's probably around $17 billion. Lake Charles, not quite as many, but $5 or $6 billion. Right. But then you have another set over here.
Is there anything in North Louisiana?
There is. There's not really that much, and the reason for that, what is happening in North Louisiana that's helpful, is that's the source of the natural gas for these.
Right.
So you have the Haynesville Shale up there, and so you've seen the rig count go from 20 already to 45. So it's gone up, it's more than doubled, all right? And it's going to keep going up, and we know that because if you look, they're also building pipelines from the northern part of the state down to the southern part of the state to bring their natural gas down here to feed not only the chemical plants, but also the LNG export facilities, which is another kind of key thing that's going on in the background there. Because Europe does not have enough natural gas, so they want to bring natural gas to from the United States to us through LNG export terminals. So that's another big source. There's a very big one going in down in Plaquemines Parish right now.
Right, and of course LNG, Louisiana is essentially, and it's really Calcasieu Parish and Cameron.
They have three, Cameron and Calcasieu there. They have about 3 LNG facilities there. You have another one being built now in Plaquemines Parish. And that one has a sister one that they haven't issued that FID yet on. They have another one in Lake Charles, at least 2 or 3 in Lake Charles that are waiting out there to pull the trigger. So we'll kind of see how this next few months goes on that.
So let me ask you this: with everything moving as it can toward a less of a carbon footprint and a greener planet, if we can get there, how does that affect this building boom?
Well, I mean, they're in the background, but what I just described is the biggest part of the boom. Now, there's a smaller part of that, a much smaller part of that, that's going to happen as a result of the Inflation Reduction Act, comically named that. But anyway, the Inflation Reduction Act, okay, because in that there's all these subsidies for firms to capture the carbon that they're emitting and sequester it in salt domes or some other way below the earth someplace.
Right.
So you're going to see a lot of construction activity associated with building those carbon capture units and then putting together the stuff to sequester it in the ground.
Yeah, we've covered that the past couple of weeks. Talked to a guy who is doing this in water, any body of water. It started out as something else. They're finding it is a great place to put it
in water
and have it sink. Yes.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, okay.
And it's that could be a huge answer coming. I talked to him last week. He's out of Israel.
Well, that is something that again, if you look at the total construction activity, I would say it's probably 10-15% of it. The rest of it happened. This buildup happened way before that act was passed.
So for Louisiana overall, this is a good thing, right?
Oh, absolutely a good thing. I mean, this is especially if you live around the southern part of the state.
Right.
If you look at the central part and the northern part of the state, for the most part, they haven't been growing very well, although now Shreveport, there's some things starting to happen. The Haynesville Shale is starting to explode. There's some things getting ready to happen at the base up there at Barksdale. There's a lot of good stuff going on at the port up there. So they're doing particularly well right now. And then there's a major carbon capture project. They're at the engineering stage on there in Alexandria called the Diamond Vault Project that CLECO has.
Thank you for explaining what's happening and what's driving this
Well,
thing.
glad to be here.
All right.
Stomping out economic ignorance is my life.
Thank you, Loren Scott.
Okay, thank you.